Well, President Trump recently signed an executive order calling for a review of the H-1B visa program. Now, that's designed to help companies find highly skilled and trained workers from overseas. Other countries like New Zealand and Australia are also following suit by tightening access to those skilled worker visas. For more on the topic, I'm joined by Jacob Kirkegaard, Senior Fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economics. Jacob, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Now, as I mentioned, many countries, you have the US, Australia, New Zealand, and others, are putting out these policies that are viewed as putting the country's workers first. So how do you expect that to impact companies that really need to attract global talent?
Well, there's no doubt that this is going to negatively affect these companies, which is exactly why you're seeing many of the biggest US tech companies and other sort of generally internationally oriented multinationals from the United States come out very strongly against the new executive order by Donald Trump. And when you look at some of these measures by the Australian government, I would expect a very strong business pushback there as well.
Now, what about on the flip side? Say in New Zealand and Australia specifically, are there any industries which could perhaps benefit from these visa changes?
Well, I think you could find, I don't think industries per se, I think it would be very hard pressed to find an industry that would generally benefit as an industry in terms of the revenues and profits earned by the companies of that industry from a general reduction in the availability of high-skilled workers. But on the other hand, I do think you could probably find some individual occupational groups of workers that might benefit from it because they obviously face less competition from foreign skilled workers. However, again, I would say that that could be a good policy for a very narrow group of workers, but I think there are plenty of studies that show that for the economy as a whole, at least for advanced economies like the United States or Australia, this generally reduces economic growth and therefore also overall job creation in the economy.
So which sectors do you think then will really bear the brunt of these sorts of policies?
Well, typically, at least here in the United States, these visas have been very intentionally used by a fairly limited number of IT services companies. So there's no doubt that the IT services or outsourcing companies will be materially impacted. I would say personally that I don't think we should feel particularly sorry for these companies because they have, in my opinion, used a particular quirk of American visa laws, the H-1Bs, etc., to implement a particular business model that is quite profitable, but is not necessarily beneficial for the overall U.S. economy. But still, the H-1B visa program is a program that is used very widely by the most profitable and innovative companies in the United States. Right. And therefore, the feelings will be felt very broadly.
So what about this idea that some people are trying to make this correlation between H-1B visa workers and this idea of them stealing jobs from American workers? How much truth is there to that?
Well, I mean, I think you should always be careful when you're talking about stealing individual jobs. This is, of course, there have been examples of H-1B workers being brought into, as it is usually expressed here in the United States, training their replacements. So you have individual jobs being transferred, and that, of course, can be highly distressful and economically ruinous for the individual American workers in question. However, I would stress that there is a lot of economic studies that will show that in terms of overall employment generation, in the overall number of new jobs that are being created in the U.S. economy as a whole, this is quite strongly correlated with the availability of also foreign high-skilled workers through, for instance, the H-1B program, even if it negatively affects potentially individual American workers.
Well, certainly a lot to chew on there. Thank you so much, Jacob Kirkegaard, Senior Fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economics.